der zentralen Position. Nur Schwarze hat er noch vor sich. Dann ist es Freiburg. Er ist im Strafraum. Und der fällt. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1. Herrlich!
Hi and welcome to the German Fussball Podcast. I'm your host Markus Fjortoft, and as always, joined by co-host Jan Fjortoft. Dad, as always, a pleasure to have you here. Round 18 concluded. Whether we go into Bayern immediately, Leverkusen, Leipzig, there are so many narratives that we can discuss. But going into this round, what are some of your, I guess, main takeaways or insights from this round?
Well, when Bayern Munich losing at home, I mean, then you can find all different stats, and not even scoring. There are stats for that as well. They've scored. I'm not 100% of the number. I think it was 65 games or something at home. They in 28 games, Werder Bremen, they never lost against them, and then losing 1-0. And Markus, we were both looking at the game, and it was not undeservedly. I mean, yes, at the end, Mathis Tell had a great chance. Cetera, the goalkeeper of Werder Bremen, brilliant save. But 1-0 Werder Bremen at Allianz Arena the day after Leverkusen winning in the 90th plus minute. And I would put that back to a bit naivety. They don't have balls at the moment, this Bayern team. There's a lot of things, because now Leverkusen, they got like a direction now. First in Augsburg, now in Leipzig, behind a couple of times and still winning. That is a trophy formula. But I think, Markus, before you tell me where you are, I think you're in Manchester, because I don't recognize the room. But before we talk more about Bayern, we can listen to our friend, to our very knowledgeable head of sport of Bild Zeitung, Christian Falk, what he's saying about the so-called crisis in Munich.
Hello, Jan, dear Markus. Here is Christian Falk, your Bayern insider. Yes, you know, when Bayern Munich is losing in the league, it's always hard for the coach. But in this case, yes, perhaps it's a little bit harder, because, you know, it was not the first time that Tuchel is losing a match in a very tricky way. It was the Super Cup at the beginning, 0-3 against Leipzig. Then we remember the 1-5 against Frankfurt. And of course, when they get out in the cup against Saarbrücken. So the problem is that the Tuchel Bayern we want to see, you can't see on the pitch at the moment. And you think, where are they going? You know, Tuchel got his player, his key player, with Harry Kane, and at the end, the bosses thought now he can do what he wanted to do with Bayern Munich, to make a champions team, and it doesn't seem at the moment that they get champion in the league. And, you know, he would be the first coach since 12 years to get no title. So I think if it's getting not number one in the league, this team, Tuchel has really to win the Champions League. Otherwise, he has a big discussion at summer. And on the other way, Xabi Alonso is doing a very, very good job in Leverkusen. He is a former player of Bayern Munich. He has the Siegergehen, you call it in Munich. So you see, he's making a winners team of a team from Leverkusen, which always were Vizekusen. So I think the bosses have a look what happens there in Leverkusen, and they have a really, really close look what's happened on the pitch with Tuchel and his team, and if they find together. So it's getting a really, really interesting season for us journalists. Best regards, your Christian Falk.
And that was Christian Falk, a podcast friend at this point, Dad. And it's interesting when we analyze Bayern relative to Leverkusen, because when we conduct this analysis, it's really what we have to do, isn't it? Because you look at Leverkusen and the start they've had to the season, historic as such, undefeated. I mean, the points tally that they are at now has only been matched by Pep Guardiola twice. If it weren't for the fact that Leverkusen had such a strong season, it probably would have been same procedure as every year, in which Dortmund maybe would be somewhat close behind. But considering what Bayern have performed so far, like in terms points-wise, performance-wise, we can discuss, but points-wise, it's been an impressive points tally. But again, when you have that a rival in Leverkusen now performing, I guess the opinions and the analysis we make of Bayern becomes starker. And then you start to have discussions about, well, is training good enough at Bayern? Are they dominating as much as they should have? How do you see this, I guess, developing and how it's been so far as well?
First of all, they are fantastic in training. That's what we told all the time. They can't get out what they do in training. That is not a good sign. They just been in Portugal, had some time to go through some exercises. They are 7 points behind Leverkusen, but we have to say we are recording this on Monday night. On Wednesday, they're playing Union Berlin at home. Union Berlin's game against Mainz was also cancelled, so they will come fresh into that game. But okay, let's expect Bayern winning then. Then they are 4 points behind Leverkusen. There are 2 more rounds, and then there's a big game. It's Leverkusen against Bayern Munich. I mean, that will be, I'm not saying that is a decider. I'm not saying it's a title decider, but imagine going out of that game and you really are 7 points ahead of Bayern. And I think that a lot of the thing is on a mental stage, because if you take one player to one player, 1-to-1, between the two teams, there is no reason why Bayern should be behind Leverkusen. I mean, they got a great defense on a normal day. Davies just under par, not playing very well at the moment. Manuel Neuer, still one of the best goalkeepers in the world. They got national players all over the shop. They got a biggest talent in football next to Florian Wirtz and Bellingham and Haaland. Well, the list can go on. But Florian Wirtz and Musiala being the couple, so to say, in Germany. They got Harry Kane, who's scoring for fun. And I must say, I guess there are a lot of fans in and around the world now. They will talk about the Harry Kane curse. I think it's curse. In my English, you have to stop me.
Correct.
And him going there, they're out of the cup. The Champions League is always hard to win, of course. And now it seems that at the moment that the Bundesliga slipping away. But I think that there is a combination of Leverkusen being stable. I think this is 15 wins and 3 draws. They never lose, and they take points. Now, in the 94th minute in Augsburg, 91st now in Leipzig. Against the Leipzig, you got all the confidence and all the quality to be up there as well. I think this put Bayern under pressure, because when they were fighting against Dortmund, a bit more naive team, a team that could break down a lot of players at the same time, giving away wins. But this Alonso team, and I think I fear Alonso as well, because Alonso, a born winner, wherever he was a winner, a Champions Trophy hunter, so to say. So I think that you can see that, Markus, now when Leverkusen play ahead of them from the first minute, and you saw Werder Bremen, a goal not given. VAR took it away because there was a foul on Musiala, but still they created chances. Even, and we talked about that in the next episode, last episode against Hoffenheim, they won 3-0. They let them have a couple of 2-3 great chances. Okay, they won deservedly, but is Tuchel under pressure? Yeah, a Bayern coach is always under pressure. A Tuchel needs to win. Now it's all kind of stats. Yes, I think he's played 38 games, and Nagelsmann had 84. And the point stats for Nagelsmann is better. So things like this will now be taken up and discussed, not only in Germany, because Thomas Tuchel came there to make them into winners. He got the trophy more or less sent from Dortmund, but still he took the Bundesliga trophy. But it seems now they can't use the same weapon, so to say, attacking Leverkusen.
But let's reflect a bit on the significance of if Bayern do not win anything during an entire season, because you have obviously the buffers. You think, okay, the cup, well, then we have the league, and if we don't have the league, etc. There was not that they'd count as much, but you had the Super Cup there where Bayern lost at home to RB Leipzig, which is also an interesting trend, that the 3 games in which they've had a longer break, it was going into the Super Cup against RB Leipzig, 3-0. They had the Union game that got cancelled. Then they lost to Eintracht 5-1, you remember? Then they had a longer period now and lose to Bremen. But Bayern can't go, despite the stats that Tuchel is doing better, etc. Will Bayern accept going through an entire season trophyless and not make changes?
Absolutely not. I mean, that is Bayern. That is the Bayern gene. You can't say that the only 3 coaches that can coach Bayern is Udo Lattek, Ottmar Hitzfeld, or Jupp Heynckes. They are the only one be there. Mind you, Pep Guardiola, when he left, he didn't win the Champions League, but he won everything else. I mean, he was Pep Guardiola. When Pep Guardiola left Bayern, they said, yeah, it's okay. That was a bit too intense in training. He was too detail-orientated, and so on and so on. So Bayern is a very tough place to be a coach. Bayern is also a place, in contrary to English football, I've talked about that before. There's so many people in and around the club who kind of speak in the public all the time about your position. So no, there is no chance that Tuchel could survive if you don't win any title, because then you have to do significant steps for the culture being better. And at the moment, I think Christoph Freund will kind of get young players in, but still, if you see, Eric Dyer, he's not the youngest. Trippier was now still linked to Bayern because they need a right back and so on. So there is no chance that he can survive a trophyless year.
Let's, before we move on, though, give credit to Bremen, because they haven't won since 2008 at Bayern, when they had the likes of a Diego, a Per Mertesacker, a Mesut Özil. A different Bremen side, of course, but what a win for them, for Ole Werner as well. Bremen, in many ways, their ambitions were perhaps reset when Füllkrug left for Dortmund, and they kind of had to reset in terms of what to expect from a team like this. But going into this game, they were 4 games unbeaten, but had Dirk Bittencourt suspended. And then you have a former Leverkusen and Bayern player, albeit not playing that much, but in Weiser, who gets the winning goal. I mean, a fantastic performance by them, and by all accounts, deserved that, because yes, we can look at Bayern's chances, but I would say half chances in most of the cases.
Yeah, and to sum up for people, Werder Bremen used to be one of the greatest teams in Germany, winning a lot. This is in the beginning of the 90s. With my mate Rune Bratzett. They had some great player, Mario Basler. They had so many great players in that team, and Otto Rehagel, of course, being the coach, one of the most magic, unbelievable coaches there has been. Then they didn't do anything for a lot of years. Then Thomas Schaaf, one of the players in the Rehagel area, came back and they're winning trophies. But Werder Bremen is not a natural contender in modern football, so to say, because they don't have the financial resources. They don't have a business kind of city. Yes, it's up north with the North Sea, close to Norway, I guess. But they don't. That is not natural for them. But Ole Werner has done a great job for them. He's kind of stabilized them. They're in a Mittelstraße. They're in the middle of the road. They won't have anything to do with relegation. But that win was good for them. You can slip down there. You can slip down that rope. But they looked good against Bayern. And even in the 64th minute, there was some interesting incidents, because then Tuchel changed a lot. He changed players. He took out Kimmich. We talked about that. Kind of humiliate him, taking him off, because in his own words, everybody expect him to be the leader in the team. Then he changed it around, 3 at the back, meaning that Leroy Sané had to kind of go further down, and Thomas Müller, who came on, wanted to explain it to him, and Leroy Sané is not a good man covering his emotions or his body language. He didn't like that, and so on and so on. That's what you're looking for now, Markus. Yes, big praise to Werder Bremen, but a big analysis in Germany and in the football world now, what's going on there. And even Harry Kane didn't have many chances, didn't have many shot in that game. So they couldn't take the heat from Leverkusen's great win in Leipzig.
You always say that it's better to have points than games in hand, but nonetheless, Bayern do play Union in the game that was postponed due to bad weather earlier. So they'll have a chance to redeem themselves, if you may, on Wednesday. Let's move on to Leipzig against Leverkusen. And what a game that was, and what a top, really lived up to the top spiel kind of context. RB Leipzig, on one hand, a team in which we praised from the very beginning, but perhaps questioned their consistency throughout a season, considering that they are a younger team. They lost bigger profiles. as we know, in someone like Szoboszlai going ahead of the season, and Nkunku, obviously. But then you have a likes of a Xavi Simons comes in there, a fantastic first goal, a great counter where Simons and Openda link up. But then Leverkusen, and you touched upon it in the early stages here, they just have that belief now in which, by all accounts, something that Xabi Alonso has cultivated. But even still, their 12th goal from set pieces this season, they win it again late on. I mean, these are really markers of a title-winning side. But yeah, what a fantastic game we had, and the fact that Leverkusen again do it without key players too. That, let's not forget that too, is incredibly impressive.
Well, that's what you do when you were up there fighting. You think going to Leipzig, maybe you get a point. I mean, that you will be happy with that. Let's not lose in Leipzig. Get a point, move on. Bayern will think that with the players away, do they have in the international tournament, the AFCON and the Asia Cup, there's still a lot of players out. Boniface, he couldn't have played anyway now, but he's out till April and so on. But Leverkusen was a great football game. As you're saying, Openda, Simons, there are so many good players out there, and I haven't even started with Leverkusen. But it's down to the will. It's down to that belief. It's one of the greatest feeling you can have when you have that winning feeling, because you know you've done it before. You will have Alonso telling them, you can do this. I know you can do it because you did it in Augsburg. Now next game they will say you did it in the last 2 games. So you have that belief in there that you can do that, and you know you have the players who can be potential match winners, although the match winners lately haven't been the most well-known names or well-known goal scorers, but still there's something in there. And Leipzig, I mean, that is not an easy place to come and go. That is a cliche, but go to Leipzig and win 3-2. I know Eintracht Frankfurt went there and win 1-0.
That was Leipzig's first loss at home since last April, right? So
exactly.
Impressive from Eintracht and Leverkusen.
Absolutely. So Leverkusen, fantastic. And if I may then say that Leverkusen will have it in their hand when they play Bayern at home, I mentioned that. And talking about Eintracht, Markus, I think if I may then go to my former club, 2-0 up, flying, playing great, then you got a 2-1 and everything is panic. They forget to play. They get deeper and deeper. I mean, this is Darmstadt. I mean, in all due respect to Darmstadt, this is a local rival as well to Eintracht. Not only Mainz, but also Darmstadt. And they kind of lost everything. But I'm doing a column for Bild Zeitung Frankfurt. And what they told me, and I had to comment on that, was that there have been questions around Kevin Trapp because he was involved in one of the game goals. And I said, please, this is 2 months ago. He should be the goalkeeper number 1 in Germany. And now he's the problem, apparently, for Eintracht Frankfurt, which is bad. But the thing is that games like this they are significant because you're getting close to Europe. They're still in the European position, but they're getting close to Champions League. You're allowed to dream. You're winning in Leipzig, as you were saying, first time nearly a year, and there is a big optimism. You still have this transfer window to get maybe another striker in. You got Kalajdzic, you got Van den Beek, and they're winning the first game. So everything was like there for them. But it just shows you that to win these kind of games, you need the consistency of your performance. And Frankfurt at the moment not there. And I agree with Markus Krösche after the game. He had a real go at them because of their mentality, and deservedly so.
Yeah, there was a proper rant. He didn't hold back. He thought it was naive, passive, sloppy, and understandably so. I mean, Darmstadt got a point. They're now equal on points with both Mainz and Köln at the very bottom there. But in a derby, to the very point in which Eintracht were defending so deep towards the end, and Darmstadt deservedly got their goal back. A team that suddenly, in which we talk about changing narratives, but suddenly now find themselves very close to third spot, are Dortmund, who have had a great start to the Rückrunde. They have now 7 goals for, 0 goal against. You have Jadon Sancho signed. He looks like his old self. They have a very exciting player in Madsen on the left back, who there's always already talks about Can they sign him in the summer? We all know that he has a clause. I think it's around 35 million euros as well. When you analyze Dortmund, Dad, I'm always wary because the narrative or analysis around Dortmund always tends to be a bit negative, and I think it's very easy to do so. But so on one hand, I want to praise them, even though they play against Köln and Darmstadt. But if you look at the season as a whole, we were expecting them to be where Leverkusen and Bayern are. And I'm careful also praising them for being close to third as well. I don't know how you approach that.
Well, I think that you should praise teams when there are time to praise them. And it is at the moment. They have had a great start in the new year. They got new coaches in and around Terzic, in Şahin and Bender. Former players, very popular players. Malen is on fire. He's the top scorer of Dortmund now. You got Sancho in, that gives you optimism, but you also get someone 1-against-1, taking on people. He's not back to his best, but you need some rhythm. You need that rhythm to play games. And he was back to his best. He was fouled, got a penalty, and said to Füllkrug, I want to take this penalty. I mean, there's one thing you can never do is if there is a penalty taker who is a goal getter, being there myself, there is no chance in the world that you will give that penalty away. But that is Sancho. He wanted his first game, but still involved. Big win for Dortmund, and now they're up there, and that is good. That is good for German football. It's good to have Dortmund back, and could they be worse? Of course they couldn't, but there was a point there when people start talking about Terzic maybe leaving at the end of the season. There was also Sebastian Kehl, the new head of sport. He's been questioned. So these are very relief kind of time for Dortmund, and may it continue so. If you see the yellow-black shirt behind me, a great football club, and we'll see where they will go now.
So just to be clear, you are team Füllkrug in this conversation.
Absolutely. It's the same. It's the same as when Tony now did that against Nottingham Forest. You saw when he took the ball and he changed it. And at first I thought, wow, that is a clever boy. And when he then took the ball, then he took the foam from the referee to kind of take that. I mean, that is so clever. I would like to be that boy, do that. That is a fantastic thing. And now Nottingham Forest has sent a letter to the referees and said, you can't do that. I mean, please start with yourself. I mean, when the wall is going forward, have you been in any wall in the history of football, Markus, who's not moving forward after the referee tells you to stand there? No, Forest, have a look at yourself. I have no idea where I did come from Dortmund into Forest against Brentford, but let's move
on. When it comes to then the remaining games, that we can also mention that Freiburg won against Hoffenheim. They were 2-0 up. Grifo's 2-0 goal was Freiburg's
well done.
500th goal under Streich.
Yeah,
500th. What's up with this number today? It's a 500th goal under Streich, which is rather significant. It really puts into context how long he's been there, but also what Christian Streich has accomplished at Freiburg. Good win for them in terms of keeping hold of the European spots. Bochum.
Stuttgart, what's wrong with Stuttgart?
And that's the thing. Bochum, big win. I mean, big win for big teams in the sense that, or big wins for teams that have been predicted to go down. Bochum as well, but they went against Stuttgart, and I'd like for you to talk about. You talked about that when Lewandowski left and Bayern went without him for a season and stuff like that. But you always said, but you need him to score the 1-0 goals. And the reason I mentioned that is you don't have Guirassy. So when Stuttgart aren't creating maybe as much, bear in mind Silas is with Democratic Republic of Congo at the AFCON as well, who's been very good for them this season. But when you don't have Guirassy, who's for the 1-0 goals, that's now it reveals itself, no?
Absolutely, and sometimes as well you can hide yourself behind a great goal scorer. I'm not saying that happened to Bayern with Kane, but of course that helps to have a goal scorer to always get that vital 1-0 goal, and especially when you play teams like Bochum, the way Stuttgart are playing with a lot of energy, a lot of speed going forward. And when 1-0, Bochum have to come at them. But fair play to Bochum. They know what they're in. They know they're in a relegation battle, and they take points.
And then Heidenheim-Wolfsburg, a 1-1. I mean, Wolfsburg doesn't excite too much. Maybe that's a criticism of Kovac and Wolfsburg. Heidenheim continued to be strong at home, doing enough, keeping the relegation teams at bay, which is certainly what they would have hoped for going into the season, to stay up, which they have. And then Augsburg beat Gladbach after Gladbach did beat Stuttgart. But I think what needs to be mentioned about the Gladbach game is that you had Stefan Lainer, who returned to Bundesliga play since overcoming cancer, because he was diagnosed with that in July and missed the first half of the season as a result. So great to see him back there as well. And then before we go into Zweite Bundesliga, Dad, we also need to mention that club president Kai Bernstein for Hertha Berlin passed away unexpectedly at the age of 43. And he was one of those who'd been with the club since the very beginning as a member, as a supporter, and he unexpectedly passed away as well, which we want to mark.
Yeah, it's a very sad day, and it was out of nothing. Hertha Berlin struggling in the Zweite Liga and have been struggling with different project kind of thing. And Bernstein came in as he has written his name into the German football history books, because he was kind of maybe it happened before that the fans has gone down, but he just more or less went from the range straight into being the president, and he's been liked, he's been adjusted well. There were great photos of him going to training camp. He came home and he never woke up, and of course it's a heart to stop. I'm not 100% sure about the kind of doctor's verdict of what 100% happened, but it was a kind of a heart attack, and the whole football family mourns. And that was just after Franz Beckenbauer, and now him leaving 43 years of age, and we just send all our condolences and thoughts to the family and Hertha Berlin. If we go to the result, Markus, the big game this weekend was Schalke against Hamburger Sportverein. Unbelievable enough, Hamburger Sportverein managed to win. They won a game when they needed to win. That is not especially Hamburger Sportverein. There is also, this is a fun, we talked about this before, it's St. Pauli, Holstein Kiel and Hamburg, all in the same area fighting for the 3 places. Kiel lost.
Home to Eintracht Braunschweig as well, which was very surprising.
Yeah, very surprising. Then Hamburger Sportsverein managed to take advantage of this, but to all Hamburger Sportsverein fans out there, you know what will happen. They will play a relegation game at the end of the season, and they will somehow manage to stay in the Zweite Liga. But I must admit, Markus, I follow them a bit because I got a good feeling for that club, because it's always been up there. It was when I grew up, this was a great club. They're winning the European Cup. My later then coach, Felix Magath, scored the winner. So Hamburger Sportsverein should be up there, but you should be, of course, up there based on your merits and not only your name.
Good point. Dad, I'm going to go to another segment with you, but are there any, rather than player of the week, is there a shout out of the week, someone you want to give honors or a shout out to? Because what I had in mind, you see, is I wanted to give 3 players a shout out.
Okay, start.
You want to start or I'll start?
No, you start. You'll probably take mine, but we haven't talked this through, so just start.
No, well, I'm going to do the Bremen back 3.
Okay.
So you have Jung, Friedel, and Stark, who going away to Bayern. You haven't won there since 2008. You are in a sort of momentum. You've gone into that game 4 games unbeaten. You had a late equalizer at Bochum the week before, but you're going up against the mighty Bayern at Allianz Arena. Bayern had one of the best home runs in terms of wins, consecutive wins, going into this game. And then you have a back 3 there. And let me tell you, as a former defender, when you are part of a solid back 3 and you defend with all your might, and you see as the game progresses and moves on, that there is that special feeling in the air that anything you block is gone away. Your clearances work, your blocks work, everything seems to work. And that's what I could I knew that feeling which the three had there, in which they defended so well, and they were such a key part to Bremen earning their first win at Bayern since 2008. So huge shout out to those three, because that was a mighty defensive performance, and an overall great performance by Bremen.
Great choice, and sometimes we do forget that, because when you're winning away from home, you know there had to be a great back three. Even the goalkeeper, Settere, I think is pronounced his name. That save at the end when Tell hanging fantastic in the air. He is doing everything right, and then somehow he saves the ball in the post. Goalkeeper post again, and then the ball is out. That is just meant to be. I will take another Bremen player. I will take Weiser. A fantastic feeling coming back. There has been 2 periods at Bayern. He didn't manage to kind of take a place there, but still a former Bayern player coming back, winning an Allianz. That must be, or I know that is one of the most fantastic feeling in the world, winning against Bayern. And then I will make one shout for a player who is always in shadow of everything. It's sometimes, since he came to Dortmund, he's been a shadow of himself. I mean, he's played in the shadow of Erling Haaland. He's been shadow of Jude Bellingham. He's probably a shadow of Füllkrug. That is Malen. Malen just came, he's just doing his stuff. I've interviewed him a couple of times. He's not Barack Obama, I must admit, talking about his performances, just doing his job. But still, he's there, he's scoring goals. He's a part of a very successful start of the second part of the season in Germany. So one for him as well.
Dortmund's top scorer this season, Malen is. So a deserved shout out to him. Now, Dad, I did ask you,
you did,
about your top 5 stadiums that you played at going into this. And so I suspect maybe a couple of Bundesliga or one, or some Bundesliga stadium will be mentioned at the very least. But I'd like for you to, the floor is yours, so to speak. Talk me through your top 5 stadiums and what you're using, I guess, as a benchmark as well.
Yeah, and you do challenge me on these top 5, and you do that in half an hour before we go on. So but that is good, because then I have to think what should be the measurement. But first of all, I've had to play in the stadium, meaning that San Siro, that I went to, I did a job for Servus TV. I did Salzburg playing AC Milan. I have never been to a game where the whole stadium was shaking. Fantastic atmosphere. I played with Rapid against Inter, but there was something wrong with San Siro, so we had to play, I think, in Genova. So we didn't play there, unfortunately. So my top 5 is not where I have been. I've been there. I've been in Santiago Bernabeu, but I haven't played there. I have played at Camp Nou, but that was a tournament before the season started. So these are 5 stadiums that means a lot to me. I've had some great experience there, and also a measurement is the atmosphere in and around the stadium. So number 5, our national arena, Ullevål Stadium, because Ullevål Stadium is a symbol of the achievement the Norwegian national team did in the beginning of the 90s. Norway hadn't qualified since 1938, and in the qualification with Holland, Netherlands, England, of course, Holland, England, Turkey, Poland, and San Marino, every game was a sellout, and we kind of were flowing. We were going surfing to USA, quite literally, because it ended up us winning the group. So number 5, Ullevål Stadium in Oslo. Number 4, it was quite difficult between 2 stadiums up northeast, but number 4 is St. James's Park. St. James's Park, when we came there with Middlesbrough, and I also came there with other teams. I scored there for Barnsley once when Alan Shearer got a winner at the end. But coming there, and I'm still got a feeling when I'm working there as a pundit or an expert. I mean, 8 of 10 in the stadium with a proud wearing the Newcastle shirt. It's a fantastic stadium. The atmosphere is unbelievable, pushing their team forward. Meaning that number 3 is Riverside Stadium. Why is Riverside Stadium in there? because I had the great privilege to play the last game at Ayresome Park, the legendary stadium of Middlesbrough Football Club, as I was seeing Riverside Stadium being finished. At the end of the season, we got promotion. First game of the season, Chelsea with Gullit, with Alan Johnson, my roommate in the national team. We won 2-0. Craig Hignett scored the first goal. I scored the second goal, the Buzz Aldrin goal that nobody by any quiz will do remember, but I scored the second goal. So Riverside Stadium is number 3. Number 2 is the usual suspects, and a lot of players have played there. My first game in Germany, I played in Westfalenstadion. Now it's called Signal Iduna Park. That is the home ground of Dortmund, of course. I mean, when they're singing You'll Never Walk Alone, unbelievable. It's an unbelievable atmosphere. And that is just my emotions taking them ahead of Anfield, because I don't have Anfield here. I must say that straight away. I don't have Anfield in here. I don't have those many English stadiums, but emotionally, the St. James's and Riverside are there, but emotionally, Dortmund, I think it was 65 when I played there. And I've also been affected about been working there a lot, 81,000, and that yellow wall is unbelievable. So number 1, maybe, Markus, I don't think that you would have thought that I took that one, but if you hear the story, it's the right thing. That is also with the national team. It's also back to playing against the Netherlands or Holland, the Kuip Stadium in Rotterdam. We play there. That is the home ground of Feyenoord. We play there 0-0 in 1993, I think. They had so many chances, Marcus. You can't believe it. I mean, I've talked about it before. They hit the post, rebound, they hit the other post. But we kind of silence the people in that stadium. And that is a tough thing to do, because that is so, an atmosphere is so loud. So we ended up getting a 0-0. I could have had a winner at the end as well. And the Norwegian paper said God is a Norwegian, and it certainly was, because we went to USA. But my favorite in terms of emotions, sound, people is the Kuip, the hometown or the home stadium of Feyenoord Rotterdam.
I like that measurement. It's a good measurement, because it is something that should invoke in you.
What's your best stadium? What's the best stadium? I have to challenge you now.
I have to. Well, I would obviously say that I wish I could have played at Celtic Park. I was only on the bench at Celtic Park, and it was during COVID, so it was like a restriction. Because we played an opening game of the Premiership season there, and they had only 500 or so. So I didn't get to experience the full game of that. But obviously, the game that you were at, in terms of playing at Ibrox in front of 60,000, is pretty special. And then also making my starting debut for Hamilton in the Premiership. I remember playing at Tynecastle in Edinburgh at Hearts' stadium. And for those who don't know, their stadiums, it's a very kind of steep stand, but there's something really special about it. It feels like it's the fans are almost over you. And I remember being first 5 minutes, I can't even remember. I was so nervous. It was so new to me. And then obviously you get used to it, and so it goes. But I can still remember that feeling, and I'm sure you do as well. It's that raw emotion it evokes in you. And I think we discussed this as well, is being aware of that while playing as well, and having a look around, not being let the occasion get to you, but taking note of the occasion, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, Marcus. So that was my top 5, your top 2, really, top 3. So we'll see you again, Marcus. We will see what's happening with Bayern playing Union Berlin Wednesday this week, and then a couple of rounds, and then a big game between Leverkusen and Bayern. We can't wait, and we'll still be there and have a look for you.
Perfect. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.